Welcome in, everybody, to the First Call podcast. Jeremy Plonk, Jeff Siegel for Express Bet and First Bet, where each week we take a look at stakes races across the weekend of action. We've got 4th of July weekend coming up. Of course, 4th of July on Monday. July 2nd, Jeff, all the fireworks are piled up for one day. We've got 12 stakes races across the country to take a look at this week, all on Saturday.
Good weekend. Better than I thought it was going to be, actually. Some critical races. Some of them not great gambling races, but good racing for the sport. But there are some races here in the ones that we'll be discussing today on this broadcast that do offer some good gambling opportunities. So we are going to attack with some enthusiasm. And around the country, several racetracks have excellent cards, and of course, including Churchill loaded there. Belmont's got a couple of good stakes as well, and then some of the other tracks. Gulfstream Park looks pretty good as well. So let's jump right in.
Yeah, we've got all those stakes races to talk about, and actual racing on a Thursday that we're not used to having as we record our podcast on Thursday, June 30th. Because of the fiscal calendar and the laws in Florida, we've got live racing today and a mandatory payout in the Rainbow Six at Gulfstream Park. Expected pool about $1 million there, with 130,000 plus in the carryover at Gulfstream. And also live racing at Tampa Bay Downs today and tomorrow, so that they can straddle the fiscal year and be eligible to run there with their simulcasting permits. So it's interesting legal wranglings in Florida caused the schedule that each year on June 30th and July 1st, we get a little extra bonus racing. So look forward to that today. Again, everything must go as the end of the fiscal calendar in Florida takes place. So mandatory payout today in the Rainbow Six at Gulfstream Park. If you like following those mandatory payouts in those situations as well, keep in mind on Monday, July 4th, it'll be closing day at Churchill Downs for their spring summer meet. That means mandatory payout in any of their multi-race bets. And you'll want to check that out on Monday for the end of the racing season at Churchill Downs. Of course, they'll pivot in Kentucky to Ellis Park next week. And there'll be a lot of pivots on the racing calendar coming up in the next couple weeks, Jeff. We've got Los Alamitos kicking off Saturday with their opening day this week, or they kicked off last week, I believe, Los Alamitos, but now we've got the second week of racing at Los Al, and then we'll go dormant for a couple days in Southern California before Del Mar gets going. We're only 2 weeks away from the start at Saratoga, so a lot on the racing calendar is about to shift. When you hit July, you'll want to be betting with us at Express Bet, because there's $100,000 in hit and split offers for multi-race wagers at Express Bet and First Bet throughout the month of July. Check out the promotion schedule at expressbet.com and on the First Bet app. Find out which hit and split opportunities are there for you. We've got $10,000 in hit and split opportunities Saturday at Gulfstream Park. That means if you hit a pick 4 or pick 5 that are part of the promotion, not only do you get the winnings pari-mutually, but you get money added into your account as well based on how many people hit and split the money being offered by Express Bet. I think last weekend there was a hit and split Ohio Derby day where everybody got like an extra $140 or $150 added into their Ohio Derby pick 4, pick 5, Jeff. So you get an extra $150 on your ticket. That ain't too shabby.
Hit and split, to me, is the best promotion we've ever had. I love it, and it's something to absolutely take advantage of. You don't know how much extra money you're going to get depending on how many other people hit with you, but it's something, and it could be a lot. So it's definitely going after. Check out those hit and split promotions. It's definitely a boon to the horse player.
Again, $100,000 being given away just in the month of July from Express Bet and First Bet in those hit and splits. So get handicapping. In fact, we need to get handicapping, Mr. Siegel. So let's start at Monmouth Park. We'll go east to west, and with the racing schedule this weekend, we'll have 12 stakes races to talk about on this podcast, starting with the Regret Stakes. 6 furlongs on the main track, of course, named for one of 3 fillies to win the Kentucky Derby, the Great Regret, doing it back in 1915. Surprising, it's only been done twice since. Genuine Risk, of course, in 1980, and then Winning Colors most recently in 1988. Regrets, Frank Sinatra had a few, as he sang. There are a few regret stakes as well. Churchill runs one on the turf for the 3-year-old fillies. This one is on the main track for the filly and mare sprinters. Jeff, who did you go with in the Monmouth version of the Regret?
Well, as I check my my PPs here, I'm going to look at a filly by the name of Edie Meeny Mighty Mo, and she's also entered at Laurel, but I think she's going to run in this race. I mean, she's cross-entered in another race at Laurel and Caesar's Witch. But I like the outside draw for her. I thought her win at Monmouth, the overnight win, was very, very easily done. I think she's going to come right back and get that lovely draw from the outside. Now, there's a very fast filly inside of her named Liberated Lady, who is very talented. I watched her race at Monmouth, the overnight race back in late May, and she did everything wrong and still won under wraps. She finished out in the middle of the racetrack, and she's blazingly fast. I don't know why her form overseas wasn't better than it was, but Edie Meeny Money Mo has got that lovely outside draw. She can stalk, pounce, and go, whereas Liberated Lady will give her a target to run it, I think. And based on her recent win, and the fact that this is a filly, you remember her, she started last year at Pimlico.
Yeah.
So impressive. We liked her going long on the Monmouth Oaks, and she tried. She just couldn't get the trip. But she's a sprinter, and she's a good sprinter. And I think based on her last win, she's back where she needs to be. So I like Edie Meeny Miny Mo to stalk Liberated Lady and then go on by. And that's how I see the regret, Monmouth Park's 5th race.
7 horses in there, 5 coming off of last out wins, 2 of them coming off runner-up finishes. These are fillies all in good form in the Regret Stakes. Let's go to Laurel Park now for a pair of stakes races on Saturday at Laurel Park. We're on the main track in both of these races. Race number 8, first up, is the Caesar's Wish, named for the Black-Eyed Susan and Mother Goose winner of 1978, trained by Dickie Small. The Caesar's Wish, $100,000 for the fillies going the 1-turn mile. You had mentioned Eenie, Meeny, Miny, Mo, cross-entered in the race at Monmouth as well. She stabled at Monmouth. We expect her to probably stay home there. Who did you wind up with in the Caesar's Wish?
Yeah, she's the trainer has another horse in this race, whole Bodemeister. And so I'm pretty sure that Edie Meeny Miny Mo will race at Monmouth. But looking at this race, the grass is blue catches my eye here. This is a Graham Motion train field. Again, I like the outside draw going a mile. And the grass is blue. If you look at her form, she's run long, but I think she's probably better around 1 turn as kind of a late running sprinter. Now, she did have a win the Busanda at 1 1/8 at Aqueduct back in January of her 3-year-old season, which may have given Graham the feeling that maybe she would want to run long. But if you look at her sprint form, her 1-turn form, really, really good. Won her first 2 starts. Then she came off a long layoff at Pimlico, won an allowance race back in mid-May. Again, that was going 5/8. So I think a 1-turn mile is absolutely perfect for her. She's, again, drawn outside. She can kind of pick her spot and then kick on with it. Small field, shouldn't have any traffic trouble. So I think the grass is blue. Daughter of Broken Bow, who's won 4 out of 10. And I think that if you look at her sprint form, she's got a really, really good chance to add to that. So for me, the grass is blue. Top selection in the Caesar's Wish. This is a race for fillies and mares. 1-turn mile at Laurel Park.
Grass is blue, 10 career starts, 4 different trainers. John Stevens started the career with an eye-opening win at Monmouth and Maiden Claimant Company. Then Chad Brown took over. Then Bill Mott, now Graham Motion. I guess you're doing pretty well in the care department when you go from Brown to Mott to Motion. It doesn't get much better than that, I would have to think.
Yeah, I mean, at least the guy picks whoever, for whatever reason, he's picking the right trainers. He doesn't stay with them very long, but he looks at the program, sees who's winning all the races, and that's where he goes.
It's like speed dating. Let's go to race number 9. It's the Concern Stakes, a 7-furlong sprint named for the 1994 Breeders' Cup Classic winner who came through Maryland, also trained by Dickie Small. So both of the stakes races on Saturday at Laurel, the Caesar's Wish and the Concern for former Dickie Small trainees. Jeff, who'd you end up with in the Concern? These are 3-year-olds on the main track. We've had, I think, about 82 stakes races in the last 3 weeks, and counting next week, looking ahead for the 3-year-olds on the main. There's no shortage of places for these to run.
I looked at Old Homestead, and I'll tell you what, you go back and watch the Chick Lane Stakes. Now, yes, the track was very fast that day, but those interior splits for Pimlico, 21-4, 44 flat, when they have a run up to the pole of 8 feet. They practically do that from a standing start. That was a really fast, salty race. And Old Homestead, who was well back in that race, I mean, he was always close up. I thought he stayed on pretty well under the circumstances. It was not his best race. He'd won 3 in a row prior to that. But against this group, the pace scenario looks so much softer. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think he's got a chance to rebound and go back to run the way he did at Keeneland, and before that, his 2 wins at Delta. I like the work tab at Delaware in the interim, and I think against this level of competition, Old Homestead is going to get back on the winning track and wire the field. I like number 5 on the program, Old Homestead, over to Analyze Colt, just making his 5th career start to win the concern.
Yeah, I don't think there's much concern at all here because Old Homestead to me looks like a rubber stamp. This one should deliver, has the speed. That race at Keeneland was eye-opening against a much better field. Should get back to that, I think, against that group in the concern. Let's go to Gulfstream Park on Saturday, where the Summit of Speed has been chopped up over a couple different racing days throughout the calendar, but this is the main one because it's the opening day of the Summit of Speed, where the 2 big graded stakes races, the Smile Sprint and the Princess Rooney, are renewed. There'll be races 7 and 10 respectively on Saturday at Gulfstream Park. And certainly want to remind you that if you like playing Gulfstream Park, this is a big weekend to do it. We've got a couple handicapping tournaments and then the big $600 handicapping tournament on Saturday. It's a $600 fee to play, but anything goes in the Summit of Speed Gulfstream Challenge, Jeff. This is a pari-mutuel live handicapping contest online at expressbet.com where any wager is available. Hit the pick 4, hit the pick 5, hit the superfecta. You play your money in a live bankroll however you want. Anything goes. We started those last year, really popular. So on Saturday, the Summit of Speed, anything goes, Gulfstream Challenge, a handicapping contest you definitely want to keep an eye on and take a look at if that's your cup of tea. $600,000 total to enter and your bankroll involved in that price as well. If you want to play in that contest and want a little bit easier entry, perhaps in terms of financials, today, Thursday, and Friday, there are 2 different $50 feeder tournaments. I believe it's $20 or $30 to enter, and then your bankrolls in there with the other money. If you can win a seat in, then you're in the $600 final on Saturday for the Summit of Speed. Anything goes Gulfstream Challenge. So take a chance in those feeder tournaments Friday and Saturday at expressbet.com. A reminder, only expressbet.com has your online tournaments. On the First Bet app, you'll have to play on the ExpressBet platform for the handicapping tournaments. So, Jeff, 2 of the races in that Summit of Speed Anything Goes Challenge would be the Smile Sprint in race 7 and also the Princess Rooney in race 10. Smile Sprint, first up, named for the 1986 Breeders' Cup Sprint winner, also the 85 runner-up. Scotty Schulhofer trained that one, who began his career 7 for 7 in South Florida. So Smile certainly made a mark in Florida. The race in his name is for the Colts on the main track at 6 furlongs. It's also our Express Bet race of the week. So you can check out my analysis for this race in the Express Bet newsletter. I'm on the 3 in here, Drain the Clock, Jeff, but I thought the 5 Pudding was really interesting from off the pace because there is a ton of speed. Everybody in this race, I think, wants to be up front except Pudding. I think Pudding can come along and get a piece of it, but Drain the Clock is going to be very tough to beat in my estimation.
Yeah, on pure form, Drain the Clock should win this race. There's no question about that. If you look at the company he has kept, he's certainly running against the best. In fact, he's a grade 1 winner, won the Woody Stevens last year and beat Jackie's Warrior. And that's a pretty good thing on your resume. Let's put it that way when you consider. I was a little disappointed, though, in his the fact that 3 races back at Gulfstream back in December, he was life and death to win the 2-5. Then he got beat at 3-5 in the Gulfstream Park Sprint, and then he went to Dubai and didn't really run as well as I thought he was capable of running. I mean, Switzerland, remember him? He won that race. He was in the States about 6-7 years ago.
Yeah, right. It was Asmussen way back.
Yeah, and won the race. And I thought that was a below standard race for him. So maybe he's not quite as good as he used to be. Certainly if he runs and shows up with his best race, he's going to win. I don't think there's any question about that. But from a gambling standpoint, I'm going to try to beat him here with Willie Boy. who isn't as good as Drain the Clock. I mean, if put them up with their best race, and there's no way. But I'm hoping that Drain the Clock is not quite as good as he used to be, and that maybe will open the door for Willie Boy, who, if you look at his form, there's 2 races since joining the Jorge Delgado barn, far superior than he's ever done. He was a decent sort of horse last year, but not like he is now. And I love visually from the standpoint his big drama win again against Florida, but he did that really easy. And I like the fact that he was able to relax right off the pace and then kick on with it. When he was asked to quicken, he just exploded. And I love the way he's been working since. Clearly, this gelding is a lot better than he used to be. He's going to have to beat Drain the Clock. Mm-hmm. He's only had 11 starts, and so there's maybe more to give. He's won 4 out of 7 at Gulfstream. Again, training well. The outside draw will allow Chantel to kind of stalk, pounce, and go. And I know this Willie Boy can do that because he did that last time. So that's where I'm going to go. Price makes the race here, and obviously Drain the Clock is the one to beat. And certainly, if you're playing any kind of rolling exotics, you certainly have to protect with him and use him. But the gamble for me in the win pool is going to be on Willie Boy.
I could feel you building up to a comma in that sentence. You're like, drain the clock this, drain the clock that. There was a comma and but coming, and I could tell the way you were looming on the outside with the upset pick. So good job there with Willie Boy. We'll see how it turns out for you. You make a good case for him in here, and like you said, with drain the clock, he hasn't been as impressive as he was, say, a year or so ago. To the 10th, we go at Gulfstream on Saturday, second big stakes of the Summit of Speed on the program. It's the Grade 2 Princess Rooney at 7 furlongs for the distaffers. Of course, Princess Rooney won the inaugural Breeders' Cup Distaff. It was her final career start for trainer Neil Drysdale. Jeff, she only went 17 for 21. She wasn't bad.
Yeah, boy, she was a great filly by Verbatim, and I tell you what, she was really, really good. I'll never forget her first win. Not her first win, but her win in the Breeders' Cup Distaff in the first one, 1984. Eddie Delahousie rode her, and turning into the stretch, everybody behind her is whipping and driving and all out, and he's just sitting there on the lead, just kind of coasting through it. And then he chirped to her at the 8th pole, and she went from a length in front to like 6 in front, like 2 strides. Now she was a kind of a mare, as great as she was. Princess Rooney didn't have much of a female family, and it wasn't much there in terms of the breeding. She never really reproduced herself, but as a race mare, Princess Rooney was as good as it comes. I would put her up there with just about any other winner of the Breeders' Cup Distaff we've ever seen. That's how good she was at the time, and that's how good she ran on that day at Hollywood Park.
Oh, you mentioned Eddie Delahousie, my favorite jockey of all time. Just nobody got more out of a stretch runner than Eddie T. And you put him on a front runner who's in front at the 8th pole, and they're not going to get him, that's for sure. But Eddie Delahousie, the master of the final finish and the exciting climax to any race. My favorite jockey to watch over the years. I don't think he gets the credit historically, because that was such a good colony out there at not only at that time, but even prior to that. But you think of all the greats, the McCarrans and the Stevens and Delahousie and Valenzuela, in the 80s, and all the great riders in Southern California at the time. Of course, the end of Pink Kai's career. Eddie D is in there. I mean, if you put a Mount Rushmore together of 80s and 90s jocks in Southern California, I don't know if you could just limit it to 4 heads.
I'll tell you what, Eddie D won a Breeders' Cup for me back in '89 with Prize on the grass. And if you go back and watch that race, you'll hear the Tom Durkin saying Prize is all full out and dropping back at the 3/8 pole. And so I saw after the race, I talked to Eddie in the winner's circle. I said, Eddie, I thought you were like done at the 3/8 pole. He said, you know me, I'm always saving something. And Prize re-rallied and won the race. And yes, I said, Eddie, I lost faith. I should not have should not have. And one of the great races that he ever rode, and certainly the best race I ever won. So you don't have to sell me on Eddie Delabuse.
Excellent story. To the 10th, we talk about the Princess Rooney Stakes and being a Breeders' Cup champion in her racing career. We've got a Breeders' Cup champion, Cece, from the Filly and Mare Sprint ranks last year. She's back to defend her title, Jeff, in the Princess Rooney. She was a handy winner of this race last year when she wasn't even favored. But this year, she's definitely going to be favored.
She certainly deserves to be. Cece is a mare that if she brings her best race, she's most likely going to win this race at a short price. However, I'm going to try to beat her. Why not?
I like it.
You mentioned last week that some of these Filly and Mare sprint races, they don't have any speed in them. You know, it's funny. I mean, we're all our good Filly and Mare sprinters are all kind of like Cece, where they kind of sit third or fourth and then make a run, which is not a bad way to go. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But in this race, and again, if you were to compare resumes, you would say that Spirit Wind really does not have much of a look to beat CC. But Spirit Wind is a lightly raced 3-year-old tackling older. She's going to get 8 pounds from CC. Yep. She somehow managed to get her beat in the maiden 50. How did that happen? Way back as a 2-year-old. But since then, she's won all 3 of her starts by daylight, and she's pretty quick. But last time out, there was in a race called the Musical Romance, there was a filly on the outside that was committed to go to the front. So the jock just kind of took a hold of her and went, "Oh, you go, and then we'll worry about you at the top of the stretch." At which time, Spirit Wind went by that leader like she was standing still and won for fun. Her buyer numbers are not quite what CC is, and certainly that's going to reflect in the price on the tote. But this is a race that doesn't have a lot of early speed in it. And Spirit Wind from the rail going 7/8, and she certainly runs like a filly that's going to love 7/8. She's going to find herself, assuming she breaks cleanly from the rail, most likely on the lead. And this is a filly that I think you're going to find, if you don't respect her, she is going to get maybe very great on the lead. And CC, again, is tough. But Spirit Wind is going to get tested for class, and I think she's got a chance to get loose on the lead and keep on going if she's as good as I think she is. And we'll find out. I don't know if she's good enough to beat CC, but I'm going to gamble that she might be. So for me, Spirit Wind to upset CC in the Princess Rooney.
I think that was Victor Espinosa calling you, asking you how in the hell you made that pick. How do you pick against CC?
Well, Victor said, "No." He says, "You think I can't read a form? I'm not going to let her get loose on the lead."
Hey, that is part of those hit and splits we talked about. The late pick 4 and pick 5 at Gulfstream Park on Saturday, where the Princess Rooney is involved. The $100,000 July hit and splits with Express Bet and First Bet includes $10,000 in hit and split on Saturday in the multi-race wagers at Gulfstream Park. So make sure you check out the Gulfstream program this Saturday. Get involved. That's just 10% of the $100,000 that we're giving away for the year. To Belmont Park, we go next for a pair of stakes races, including the John Nehru in race number 4, and then the Dwyer for the 3-year-old colts, because there are not enough 3-year-old colt stakes races. The Dwyer comes up in race number 8. But first up in the 4th race on the card is the John Nehru, named for the legendary horseman who lived to be 102 years old before passing in the mid-2010s. John Nehru of Tartan Farms fame over the years. 7-furlong sprint race in his name, Jeff. Life is Good versus Speaker's Corner. This is a showdown everybody would like to see. Speaker's Corner, I misspoke earlier this weekend or earlier this week on our Tuesday podcast. I was saying that was Shug McGahee was Speaker's Corner. This is one of the Bill Mott brigades, and I want to correct that. Sometimes you get something in your mind and it's stuck and you don't get it out of there. But Bill Mott, Speaker's Corner, setting the record straight, has had a great year. Last time took on Flightline, got taken out by Flightline, but took on Flightline, and now taking on Life is Good. So Speaker's Corner and Mott are being ambitious. Godolphin taking on 2 of the fastest horses in America in successive starts. Can Speaker's Corner beat Life is Good? That's the question.
Not if Life is Good brings his best race. And really, if you looked at his Dubai World Cup, which we discussed on Tuesday, I think the trip just got to him that day. He looked like he was going to win the race 16th of a mile out and then end up finishing 4th. I have not seen him work at Belmont Park for Todd Pletcher, assuming that he's in good shape, though they wouldn't be running a horse that's valuable if he wasn't. You don't need to get him beat twice in a row. But Life is Good from the rail going 7/8 of a mile really is the kind of horse that I think he's just a prototype 7/8 type of horse, although he got beaten the Jerkins last year at that distance, but Jackie's Warrior beat him, and that was Life is Good's first race off the bench. So I think Life is Good grabs control early. Speaker's Corner is definitely going to have to run back to his best race, and if he does run back to the Carter, win 2 races back, that puts him right in the hunt. He's going to get a great trip, and he's going to find himself stalking this time. He made the lead. Might have been a mistake against Flightline. I think he just got Flightline mad. That's what happened there. Okay, you're serious, right? You're going in front. Okay, I'll just put you at the top of the stretch. But in this case, I think Life is Good makes the running, and Speaker's Corner runs second. And that doesn't mean that Speaker's Corner is going to go by Life is Good, but I think he probably would appreciate that kind of trip, have a target, and I think you're going to see the best version of Speaker's Corner show up. Is it good enough to beat Life is Good? I don't know. I don't think so. But I want to see them both run really well. This is going to be a knockdown, drag out, top of the stretch to the wire type of race. If Speaker's Corner can stay within what range of Life is Good, and if he can, we'll have a race. Otherwise, if Life is Good shakes loose early and is allowed to coast on the front, he's not going to look back. Good race, bad race to gamble, but a good race to watch.
Life is Good's the defending champ in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. Stretched out to the 1 1/8 in the Pegasus World Cup successfully and beat Nick's Go. Where do they go? I mean, did the Dubai World Cup just take the shine off of a Breeders' Cup Classic run at a 1 1/4 and say that's too far? Cutting all the way back to 7 furlongs here almost makes that admission, doesn't it? I mean, you're not going to. I guess you could back all the way up to 7 and then run in something that's like a 1 1/8 as a prep, and then go back to the Breeders' Cup Classic. But this seems to be like they're just kind of maybe looking at Breeders' Cup Mile or Breeders' Cup Sprint, perhaps, as the two possibilities. It's a curious spot. A grade 2 going 7 furlongs for $250,000 for a horse of this caliber at a weird point in the calendar, right? You're pre-Saratoga. So it's almost like one of these races in July, a race in September somewhere, and then Breeders' Cup seems like the pattern. I just don't know where they go with him. It's kind of weird. I guess back to the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile.
Probably. I don't think they thought Speaker's Corner was going to run in this race. I think they probably felt it was a good race to get the confidence back and maybe make him win off by himself, and then not a hard race, and then stretch out perhaps. I don't know, to the Whitney or one of those. I'm not really sure what their plan is. But I don't think they would be running them, they being Winstar and Pletcher, if they felt there was something that might prevent him from showing up with his best stuff. This horse is an incredibly valuable piece of property here as a son of In Mischief, maybe the heir apparent. And I don't think they want to tarnish his record. And I don't think they would be running him unless they thought he would win. So I'm going to expect that he will. And then hopefully he will. Hopefully he is back. We need all the help we can in the older handicap division, and we always do. And if Life is Good can rebound and run back to his winter form at Gulfstream Park, then yes, he would be a viable candidate for the Classic.
You made a really good point and used important words of heir apparent, right? To Into Mischief, who's getting older now at stud, but still very effective. But a son of Into Mischief at stud, this talented, could be worth, an immense amount of money, as you mentioned. And Todd Pletcher trains. If you look at the top of the stallion standings, you're going to find a lot of Todd Pletcher trainees in the top 10 in America. He's a very good stallion maker of a trainer, if you will. Of course, Life is Good started with Baffert and then transferred to Pletcher. But look at that top 10 list, the best stallions in America right now, and you're going to find a slew of Todd Pletcher trainees. Let's go to the 8th race on Saturday at Belmont. It's the grade 3 Dwyer, $250,000 here. 1-turn mile at Belmont Park. And Mr. Pletcher's got a really good chance for a sweep on Saturday in the big races. Of course, Life is Good in the neighborhood, and then Charge It, the horse expected to be solidly favored here in the Dwyer.
Yeah, this is Charge It, by the way, had a procedure done with his breathing, so I think you're going to see him regain his best form. Not to mention the fact that He's backing up to a one-turn mile, and you remember how impressive he was at Gulfstream when he won at that distance. So much so that I thought he was going to win the Florida Derby, and he ran second in that race, despite doing a lot of things wrong in that race. And then you kind of have to throw out the Kentucky Derby. I mean, that was just wasn't right for that. But again, I haven't seen him breeze at Belmont, unfortunately, since then. But I'm going to assume that he's in good shape, and he is the one to beat for sure. Now, there's another horse in this race that catches my eye, and it's a recent maiden winner from Chad Brown's barn named Navikov. He's number 6 on the program. He's actually named after Vladimir Navikov, who I thought was a hockey player somewhere. But it turns out that Navikov is actually a Russian-American novelist from about 100 years ago. So, no, he doesn't play for the Red Wings or anything like that. but this is a colt that, again, he's an Uncle Mo colt. They gave $750,000 for him as a yearling. I really did like his maiden win. He ran a 91 Byron number, just his second career start. He made the lead. He switched off beautifully. He kicked home, won very easily. Wasn't really even being asked. And his last 16th of a mile, he really started to stride out. Now, he was just running against maidens, so a lot of horses can look good doing that. But for Chad to move him all the way up to the Graded Stakes company, when he could have easily run him in a nominal as a 2 and then pointed for something more serious at Saratoga or one of those races, he's putting them right into the fray here. That tells me that Chad likes this colt a lot, and he's got a very healthy work pattern since then. He's drawn outside, can control the pace, which may not be very fast, and I think Navikov has a chance, and I think probably Chad thinks this too, of being a really nice 3-year-old, and it's not too late for him to be a player if he's that good. A little bit green when he broke his maiden, but the talent is absolutely there. And I wouldn't be surprised at all to see him step forward considerably. So I'm going to try to beat Chargip, realizing that he's the one to beat and the logical top pick with this recent maiden winner, Navikov, and we'll see what price we can get.
All right. Classic Brown versus Pletcher up at Belmont Park. The others look to be overmatched to me, as should be a 2-horse race in the Dwyer. To Churchill Downs we go on Saturday for 5 stakes races on their closing weekend. Again, July 4th Monday card will be the final race of the spring-summer meet at Churchill Downs before the Kentucky Circuit switches gears to Ellis Park. 6th race on the card is the first of 5 consecutive stakes races at Churchill. It's the Tepin, named for the 2015 Breeders' Cup Mile winner, of course, and filly who won the Queen Anne Stakes at Royal Ascot in her fantastic career. This was supposed to be a turf mile. Of course, Tepin, one of the great turf milers. Churchill Downs turf course has had its problems. They redid the turf course last year. It's been off and on dramatically throughout the course of this spring-summer meet at Churchill, and they've decided to just let it go at this point and try to get it right. By the time racing resumes back there at Churchill in September, and then, of course, again for their fall meet. So races taken off the turf for closing weekend. And that included the Tepin Stakes, Jeff, and that drastically changes things from a turf mile to a one-turn dirt mile. This is a whole different kind of race, a race in which Wicked Halo would not have been in had it been a turf mile. This is not a turf miler. It's a main track elongated sprinter. Wicked Halo coming off a win in the 7-furlong overnight stakes at Churchill Downs. She was a top stakes horse last year, winning the Adirondack up at Saratoga. Can she get the mile? That seems to be the question, because I think she's going to be pretty heavily favored.
Yeah, she really does look like the right one. I mean, she's coming back a little quicker than I would prefer, but she has the proper style for a one-turn mile. She clearly returned to winning form. Numbers-wise, she's not blazingly fast or anything like that, but she's faster than who she's running with in this race. And the pace scenario should be pretty comfortable for her. So I don't see any reason why Wicked Halo shouldn't be able to win. I don't think there's much of a gamble here, but she does look like the right one. And I think Steve Asmussen will, have her in good enough, even with the quick turnaround, relatively quick turnaround, to win this edition of the Tepin, and then go on from there.
Yeah, the quick turnaround probably, when they said, look, this race is coming off and you've got her in the barn, and you say, look, this is a spot we can win for $200,000 and try to take advantage of it. She would not have been in the Tepin Stakes, I'm certain, if it would have been a turf mile. So, this is one of those where they're kind of fitting a square peg through a round hole, but she might be good enough to fit through anyway against these. Patton is a little bit interesting, an into mischief filly who's come to hand in her last couple. Juddmont, Brad Cox, Florent Giroux. The numbers aren't that fast. Hasn't run particularly fast times, but a horse who does come off an easy win at 1-9 or 4-5, I should say, in allowance company here at Churchill. Brad Cox, Steve Asmussen, another one of those kind of showdown kind of races, probably amongst the big power barns that we just saw in New York, could play out as well in the Tepin. The American Derby is race number 7. This is a race formerly run at Arlington Park. 1.16 on the turf was the original assignment, but now we go 1.16 on the main track. Jeff, the American Derby has a field of 11, a big group in here. We talk about all these 3-year-old dirt races. This one wasn't supposed to be one of the 3-year-old dirt races on an already crowded calendar, but imagine it actually picked up one of the better fields in terms of size, for sure, with a field of 11. You've got quality name player and grade 1 winner Rattle and Roll involved. Did you take that one, or did you go somewhere else?
I actually looked for an up-and-coming type of colt, an Uncle Mo named Kuchar, who just won 1.25 mile race for 3-year-olds in May at Churchill Downs, which unfortunately for him, though, it wasn't the Kentucky Derby. It was a race that was originally scheduled to be on grass. And I don't know about this horse. I mean, he won a maiden 3 races back at Oaklawn. He was a decent second behind Homebrew, who, by the way, I think is really good. And nobody in here is going to be as good as Homebrew. And then he's 4-5 and off the turf. And the thing about Kuchar, in watching that race, he won the race. He looked like at the top of the stretch he was going to win by like 5 or 6. And he only won by 2, which you would think would be kind of a negative. But I got to tell you, in watching that video, Kuchar, to me, I mean, he put his feet in the ground and he just, thought the race was over. He was just goofing off and just fooling around. He wasn't concentrating. And then the last 16, like the last 50 yards, he decided, okay, maybe I should try a little bit. And he won the race by 2, and he galloped out 1,000,000 miles in front. I mean, that race, if you look at it on paper, it looks like just another race, and maybe it was. But I got the impression that Kuchar, there was a lot more in him than he was willing to show. I just think he got bored. Now I think you're going to see him in a tougher race like this. Again, a relatively lightly raced Uncle Moco, just 5 starts. I think once the light switch goes on, and I don't think it's gone on quite yet, but if it does in this race, you could see a serious bit of improvement here from Kuchar. And even if he doesn't improve, I still think he's right there with these anyway. But and he's got speed. I mean, he's one of these horses that they never really sent him or anything like that. But if they just turn him loose the first part, I think he's got a lot more early speed, at least going along, than he's been allowed to show. And I hope that Florent Giroux just lets him run out of the gate and gets good position and then keeps him interested. Because if he does, I think this could be a decent kind of colt. We'll find out. But I'm going to go with him, number 8, Kuchar, to win the American Derby.
Yeah, those last 2 races were 1.1 miles and 1.25 miles, and that could be one of the reasons why they didn't just let him go, right? And at 1.16 miles, they can just hit the accelerator and go at this point. I was very interested in that race because I was financially invested in Giroux, the runner-up that day, who was an older horse for Mike Maker, who looked like a good router, and that was 1.25 miles race. I thought the 3-year-old going against older horses at 1.25 miles was a little bold, and I thought it was a good bet against situation. And Giroux's a nice horse. And like you said, he turned him away and did it impressively and then galloped way in front. So that was a good effort from Kuchar last time. I like to see these 3-year-olds this time of year who have been taking on elder horses get back in against the 3-year-old ranks. I think that's a little hidden handicapping angle, a little bit of a class drop, even if you're going from an allowance into a stakes race like this situation. There are 4 horses in that American Derby who are coming out of allowance races against older horses. I think you want to keep an eye on those for your handicapping, not only in that race, but other similar situations that you'll see around this time of year. To the Florida Lee, we go next. It's a grade 2 race in the Distaff division, 1 mile and an 1/8 here. And Jeff, it's only a field of 5, but as we've seen at Churchill and at Keeneland, this is a pretty select good group. There's not a lot of filler in these races, but She Dares the Devil, She's All Wolf, Ava's Grace, Pauline's Pearl, is Super Quick. I mean, they're all quality. And once again, they match up. And is this just like another trading places day? I mean, they seem to take turns.
They do, and that's why I can't for the life of me figure out Super Quick. I don't know what. I mean, unless they ran a ringer in that race or something, man. I don't know. I mean that race, Super Quick ran at Pimlico and the DuPont. She looked like a ruffian, if you know what I mean.
Right.
She earned a 107 buyer number in that race. She had never earned a triple digit buyer number in her career. She never even earned a buyer number in the 90s. I don't know where this came from. I went back and watched it last night. Sometimes, you get loose in the lead, you get an easy front running trip, and you win. Okay, that happens all the time.
Yeah.
Super Quick didn't get an easy front running trip. She ran everybody off their feet. 46-1, 9 and change, going a mile underneath at Pimlico. Out in 47-3, wins by 14. She wasn't favored in the race, and nothing she had done prior to that, although she'd run some good races, and she was the kind of horse that if you get her loose on the lead, she can win by a pole. She did that when she broke her maiden, but nothing like this. And I don't know what to make of it. I don't know whether Super Quick is the clock's going to strike 12 and she's going to go back to where she used to be, or whether she can continue on. But she's clearly the loose on the lead speed horse. She Dares the Devil is going to sit second, which she doesn't really want to do, but she can. And then we're going to find out if Super Quick can turn into a light. Now, the good news is she's had enough time to recover from what had to be by far a career top number. And everybody in the world who plays the sheets are going to say she's going to bounce to the moon. And she might. Right. But if she doesn't, Super Quick can win this again. But I don't know whether I trust her or not. How do you look at that race or her race last time, Jeremy? And do you expect her to fall back to earth, or can she run two alike? I don't know.
Well, I mean, you're always looking for something that was different, right? I mean, like, how did this happen? You're trying to find a different factor. There's two different factors that, there's not a change of equipment. There's not a change in Lasix, not a change in distance. She's kind of been around those mile and 16th, mile and 8th races. The difference is Pimlico, right? So maybe she just freaked at Pimlico and is a street sense kind of horse for course who just really, really dug it at Pimlico and had an affinity for the track. The other one is a change of jockey from Talamo to Giroux. I don't think that changes it that much. Both stylistically are guys who like to get to the front and get involved in a race, and that was this filly style. So she's either like this tremendous horse for course for Pimlico, or it's absolutely inexplicable. So I don't know what to make of her. I think Ava's Grace has speed. I think She Dares the Devil, like you said, probably ends up falling out of there second behind her. But that's three quality speed horses. She's All Wolf's a closer. Pauline's Pearl's a closer. I would think that those two would have a chance running on if the three of them get after it. The one thing about the race, Pauline's Pearl and She's All Wolf come out of the Shawnee Stakes. Third place finisher, Army Wife, we saw come back and win the Lady Jacqueline Stakes, 250 grander, beating Crazy Beautiful, who's a very quality filly last week on the Ohio Derby undercard. So that Shawnee Stakes came up salty and has a quality winner coming out of it of a $250,000 stakes race. So good company line there. Pauline's Pearl probably bounced off that big win on Derby Day or on Oaks Day in the La Troyenne. So she got beat last time at 20 cents on the dollar. One thing I like to look at, Jeff, when horses come out of common races, look at the workout tabs. I think this is really interesting. There are three horses that come out of the Shawnee Stakes. The two, She's All Wolf, the three, Ava's Grace, and the four, Pauline's Pearl. That race was June the 4th. She's All Wolf has one workout. Ava's Grace has one workout. Pauline's Pearl has three since the same race. That tells me that the horse bounced out of the race probably better than the others, kicking down the barn. And it was kind of a non-effort for Pauline's Pearl in that race, running fourth beat in two lengths. So Steve Asmussen got her right back to the workout tab. She's worked three times since. I'm expecting Pauline's Pearl to rebound and run a really good race here. We'll see if it's good enough. If Super Quick runs that Pimlico race back, she probably wins. If She Dares the Devil runs one of her absolute ace races, she could win, obviously. But I think Pauline's Pearl is going to get a setup in here. And I like that 3 works to 1. Usually you might see one discrepancy, like, oh, this horse worked twice and the other one's only worked once. 3 to 1 coming out of the same race. I think that might show something with Pauline's Pearl in there.
How about Rosario back aboard too? That doesn't hurt.
That does not hurt at all. To the 9th we go, the Kelly's Landing Stakes. It's an overnight for $160,000, 6.5 furlong sprint. Should be a 6 furlong sprint if it's Kelly's Landing, because he set the track record at Churchill back in 2005, 107.55. It's not the track record anymore, but that's why he's got an overnight stakes named for him. Former track record setter. I believe Eddie Keneally had Kelly's Landing back in the day, but I could be wrong about that. Who did you end up with here, Jeff? We've got a Breeders' Cup sprint winner in Aloha West trying to get back on the beam. You got Bango, who is one of the real Churchill Downs specialists. Interesting group in the Kelly's Landing.
Yeah, I went with Bango, actually. Now, he has put together wins in the past. He looked great, and I thought he was overrated 10 to 1 last time out in the stake. It was a listed stakes, but it was a really, really good field. Mm-hmm. And he earned a 98 buyer number, which is a career top. So he's coming off that type of win. He's had a month off. That should be sufficient. He's got a perfect style for 6.5, which is to say that he's not blazingly quick, but he's quick enough to be in where he needs to be in a race like this that doesn't have all that much early speed in it. One of these sprint races, again, where you got a lot of pressers and stalkers, but nobody's going to cut out there and do that. And I think Bango may be the kind of horse that, he likes to be pretty close to the pace. And he likes to be pretty close to a soft pace. And I think he will. And I think he has a very good chance to run back to that Aristides win that was really impressive visually. He got through on the inside, and I thought he did well. So now, as far as Aloha West is concerned, all he's seen is Flightline and Jackie's Warriors last season.
Yeah, they're not bad.
This is a culture shock for him, and he's going to look around and not see Flightline. He's not going to see Jackie's Warrior. He's not going to see Happy Saver. He's going to see Bango. And I'm thinking he's going to think, okay, now, thank you, finally. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Aloha West win, but he's another one of these horses that always has been a little bit pace dependent, and I'm not sure what kind of trip he's going to get. He doesn't really have a lot of tactical speed from the gate, and he could be vulnerable, and yet he could just outclass this field. So again, I approach this race with a bit of caution, realizing that none of these horses could win the Breeders' Cup Sprint like Aloha West did. But also that Aloha West may not be in this contest as good as that race made him look. So I don't know. I mean, this is if the price will dictate the play here, but I think Bango. I mean, I like 7 out of 13 lifetime at Churchill, so maybe I'll try him, but not a major play for me.
I agree with you. And the recipe to win this race, though, is to get near the front. There's not a lot of speed in the race whatsoever, and I think that race can be won by a horse that's 1, 2, 3. Midway down the backstretch, going 6.5. To the Stephen Foster we go on Saturday. It's the feature race of the week around the country, to be honest. Grade 2, $750,000. Anchors the 5 straight stakes races on the card at Churchill Downs. Jeff, we've got a field of 7. Olympiad is as good as he's been all season long. 4 straight victories. The Ali Sheba win. Determined, rough stretch run that day. On Oaks Day at Churchill Downs. He comes back looking for 2 wins at the meet. I thought American Revolution's race and the Blame was disappointing, but almost not expected, but you could see it happening with a 1 1/8 trip. The outside post kind of made a middle move and flattened out. Caddo River's back really in form right now and could be the controlling speed from the rail. And then you've got Proxy, who's coming off a good series of efforts, but just can't seem to get over the top. And Mandaloon, the X factor in here, off since the Saudi Cup in February. He is the asterisk-induced Kentucky Derby winner from 2021. Back at Churchill Downs, I assume they usually, hand out trophies for Kentucky Derby winners on Stephen Foster night. I'm wondering if they're going to give a trophy to Mandaloon a year later after everything that's happened.
I don't know. That's a good point. This is a really intriguing race because you've got Mandaloon, who we know can fire fresh. He did that when he won at Louisiana Stakes Fairgrounds off that layoff. He did that stylishly, I thought, beating Midnight Bourbon, and that was a good race. He earned a career top 106 buyer number in the process. far below form in the Saudi Cup, but I guess we can excuse any poor run over there. Now he's back. I'm not sure he's completely cranked up from what I read from Brad Cox, but he's another one of these in the mischief goals that you really don't want to get him beat if you can afford to. You don't want to take anything off the luster of what he's been able to accomplish so far. You never want to get a horse like this beat. You never give a horse like this a race because you just want him to win and keep going. And so I don't know. I mean, he's going to run very well. Olympian, he's won his last four. All four were triple-digit Dwyer numbers. He's got a great style where he always sits second and gets himself free of trouble. He never has any trouble, and then he just kicks on with it. Was challenged last time, reached back for something extra and won very nicely, beating Happy Saver. That's no slouch. You got to respect him. And then you mentioned about Caddo River. Remember how well regarded he was as a 3-year-old, and he might be a lot better now than he was then. And I don't know whether – see, here's the thing. You've got Brad Cox with Mandolin. You got Brad Cox with Caddo River. You would think that he wouldn't really want to run these two together because on the one end, you've got Caddo River who's on a roll right now. On the other hand, you got Juddmonte and Mandolin. I remember when Bobby Frankel used to train for Juddmonte, he would make an effort never to run a horse against the Juddmonte horse because – he knew that Juddmonte, weren't going to be pleased if one of their horses got beat by one of Bobby's horses. I guess Brad Cox doesn't care about that, but I don't know. I don't know whether Caddo River is in this race because Brad thinks that maybe Mandolin is vulnerable, or maybe not. I don't know, but I can tell you this about Caddo River. In watching his last 3 races, this horse is good. I mean, he is really, really good and deserves to be in this race, especially since he's a perfect 2 for 2 at Churchill. He just ran a mile in 33-2, last quarter in 23-2, striding out beautifully in the final 16th of a mile as if to indicate I can do a whole lot better than or more than this if you want me to. You mentioned, Jeremy, he might be the controlling speed, and I would say this: if you put Caddo River on the front end and nobody runs with him early, and I'm not sure. I mean, I'm sure Olympian will be close, but Caddo River is not going to wave the white flag. He's going to keep going. And I think from a gambling standpoint, the quote-unquote other Brad Cox, I think Caddo River has got a chance in this form as a 4-year-old with only 13 starts. He's got a chance to be a serious member of this class as well. I'm going to gamble on Caddo River. Maybe he's not up to it. Maybe he's not quite a mile and an 8 type horse. That's possible. But he's a good colt, and he's never been better.
I like everything you're saying there. Caddo River in the Stephen Foster, of course, named for the legendary composer whose hits include My Old Kentucky Home. That's why Churchill named the race after him, obviously. But you ever heard of Camptown Races or Oh Susanna? Those were also Stephen Foster productions. So, giving you a little musical history today, Jeff.
Yeah, it was one of his hits, Is
that on your Pandora channel? Do you have a Stephen Foster Pandora channel that you're listening to?
He was big back in the day. Yes, okay.
We want to remind you that holiday racing extends beyond Saturday. We went through a dozen stakes races here on Saturday, July 2nd. That's just the way the calendar lined up. They are loaded up for Saturday. But also on Sunday, Gulfstream Park continues its summit of speed with the Bob Humphrey Sprint, usually a turf sprint, but this year on the Tapeta with no turf racing over the summer at Gulfstream. So the Bob Humphrey Sprint on Sunday at Gulfstream, a race to watch. And then again on Monday at Churchill Downs, stakes double, Bashford Manor, debutante, the 2-year-olds, wrapping up the spring summer there at Churchill. Mandatory payouts at Churchill Downs on Monday, being closing day on the 4th of July. And I'd be remiss, Jeff. We talked about all the great 3-year-old racing around the country and the overload of it. I'd be remiss if I didn't go across international borders. Sunday, be sure to check out with your international simulcasting with ExpressBet and FirstBet. The Grade 1, Group 1 German Derby from Hamburg. Our buddy in the international field with FirstBet, Helmut Winter. I mean, if you're named Helmut Winter, you are absolutely German. He tells me the horse to beat is the favorite under Frankie Dettori, So Moonstruck. So, Jeff, I'm going to give you a tout from Helmut in the German Derby. You taking it?
Yeah, absolutely. And then, by the way, they run some good races in Germany. I mean, it's not France, it's not England, it might not even be Ireland, but there's some good colts over there. And German form can hold up. So I'll be watching that. You never know what you're going to see from there and whether we'll see some of those, maybe even the winner over here in the States in the fall.
That's a wrap for the Independence Day weekend preview from First Call, First Bet, and Express Bet. Be sure to play with us this weekend. Handicapping tournaments, those $50 tournaments Thursday and Friday to get into the Anything Goes $600 Summit of Speed Gulfstream Challenge on Saturday. So handicapping tournament players, be sure to get involved and take advantage of our $100,000 in July hit and splits, starting off with $10,000 in pick 4 and pick 5 hit and splits this Saturday at Gulfstream Park. On behalf of everybody with First Bet and First Technologies, my partner Jeff Siegel, I'm Jeremy Plonk. Have a great week, and we'll check back with you next Thursday on First Call.